Watch this subtle grip change at contact. It's the difference between your backhand push dying in the net and biting back with heavy underspin. If your backhand push keeps dropping into the net or popping up for an easy attack, here's why. Most players cut straight down through the back of the ball. That's a net ball waiting to happen. Instead, brush around the lower side of the ball, scooping slightly outward and downward. Because you're not lifting upward, the ball won't fly high. Today we're focusing on the backhand, specifically backhand techniques. The second method for adding more spin is finger force. Here's the critical question. Do your fingers snap and grip the handle after the force is applied, or do they squeeze at the exact moment of contact? Think about it. The answer is, you grip at the moment of contact. Right as the ball touches your rubber, that's when your fingers tight. The timing of this squeeze is everything. It's what transfers your finger acceleration into spin on the ball. Let me show you this in a match-like drill. My partner sends me a side spin backspin serve, and I'm going to push it back. Watch my fingers closely. I set up with a relaxed grip, fingers loose on the blade. At the instant I contact the ball, the fingers snap inward, that's the squeeze. Now watch what happens when I grip too early. See? The ball drops into the net. The racket face locks up before the fingers can generate any friction. There's no acceleration through the contact point. Compare that to the correct timing. Fingers stay loose during the backswing, the wrist stays relaxed, and only at the precise moment the rubber meets the ball do the fingers fire. Can you really grip the racket hard the whole time and still do this? Of course not. Now there is one exception, the short touch. Watch, when the ball comes short and I want to keep it short, I can grip at the moment of contact. See, I touch the ball and squeeze immediately. The ball stays low and short because I want to kill its momentum. But that's a short touch, not a long push or a heavy chop. For the long push, which is what we're working on today, you must let the fingers accelerate first, and only then allow the grip to tighten. If the fingers don't accelerate, where does the spin come from? There's no friction, no rotation on the ball. So remember the sequence. Fingers push through the ball, generating speed and spin, and only after that force is delivered do you feel the handle settle into your palm. Watch my hand up close. See the fingers accelerate, they snap forward. And after that snap finishes, the grip tightens automatically. Try this yourself. No matter how you hold the blade, whether your index finger is higher or lower, flick your fingers forward as fast as you can and then just stop. See? The grip tightens on its own. You don't consciously squeeze. It's the natural endpoint of your finger acceleration. The fingers hit their range of motion limit, and the handle locks into your palm automatically. That's why I keep saying, use your fingers to brush the ball. Once my fingers finish their friction stroke, I don't need to think about gripping. The finger snap completes, and immediately my forearm follows through, adding forward momentum. But if you squeeze the handle at contact and stop there, all follow-through is gone. Your energy dies right at the ball. Now let's talk about what to do when the incoming ball has really heavy backspin. If you push straight through the back of the ball against heavy spin, you'll dump it into the net. For extremely heavy backspin, don't try to brush, friction actually works against you here. Instead, push evenly forward and downward, carrying the ball over the net with a steady, controlled motion. But you can't just float the ball back every time. Your opponent will attack it. So the other option is to avoid the heaviest part of the spin entirely. Watch my partner sends a heavy backspin serve. If I want to add my own spin on the return, I push into the side of the ball. Brushing the side lets me generate rotation without fighting the full force of the incoming backspin. Now, here's a question for you. Say the first serve is very heavy backspin, and I push it into the net. On the next ball, should my racket face be flatter, more horizontal, or more upright? Watch the screen. My partner sends a heavy serve. I push with my normal angle. It goes into the net. Now on the second ball, I flatten the racket face and it clears. The heavier the backspin, the flatter your racket angle needs to be. A flat face lifts the ball just enough to clear the net while still keeping it low. And when the ball has less spin or no spin at all, you stand the racket up more, making it more vertical. So the rule is simple: more spin, flatter racket. Less spin, more upright. The key is to match your racket angle to your opponent's racket angle at contact. If their paddle is flat when they serve, yours should be flat. If theirs is more upright, yours goes more upright. But honestly, I still recommend pushing into the side of the ball whenever you can. It gives you much better control over the arc. So I keep my racket relatively flat, not completely flat, but flatter. Now if my opponent's racket is more upright at contact, watch. I see that angle the moment the ball leaves their paddle, and I go more upright too. That's how I maintain control. When the serve is no spin, just a heavy, dead ball, notice the opponent's racket is more upright. If you're not in position to attack, you need to match that angle. This is the critical point. Don't watch where the opponent swings. Watch their racket face, the angle of the paddle at the exact moment they contact the ball. If their racket is upright, yours should be upright too, otherwise your arc won't clear the net. Then what happens? You push a couple of balls, you start to adjust. Maybe you go more upright, maybe you try to attack. But then your opponent switches back to heavy backspin, and you're still standing the racket up from the last ball. You can't take whatever happened on the previous ball and just copy that adjustment onto the next one. Stop that cycle. The read is actually simple. If their racket is upright at contact, the ball has less spin, keep your angle more upright. If their racket is flat, expect heavy backspin, flatten your angle accordingly.